Hey, our first guest today had one of the most memorable moments on Inside BYU football in 2015. Trust me, you'll know when you hear it or see it or both. Let's relive that before we bring him in.
I don't care what the score is. When you play, you make your opponent know that they played BYU. You know that I'm watching, that there are others watching, and we see how you play. We see how you hit. We see your intensity. Never, ever, ever give up, because you are a part of a story that's bigger than you, greater than you, and you've got a paragraph, you've got a sentence, you've got an exclamation point, you've got a role to play.
Let's go. Derwin Gray on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. Dewey, it's great to have you back on the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you. I appreciated that speech, man. That got me fired up to write this Bible study I'm about to write. I need to write a paragraph.
We're trying to do our part. Your passion is clear for BYU. So let's start there. What does BYU football mean to you?
Yeah, for me, BYU football was more than playing a game. I was an 18-year-old kid who was trying to escape the ghetto, and BYU was a part of my development as a man. January 15th, 1990, I met a girl named Vicky Ensign at BYU who's on the track team, and we've been married now almost 24 years. And so BYU, to me, it's bigger than just putting on cleats and a helmet, making some tackles. Is that my life, who I am today, was formed by the opportunity that BYU gave me. And what a lot of people don't know is I didn't have my SAT and ACT scores together before they offered me. They signed me with hopes that I would pass my ACT or SAT, and I did on my very last try. And so there's a greater narrative and a greater story, and that's one of the things that I try to talk to young adults and teenagers about is be grateful for the opportunities you get and maximize those opportunities. And so, I still get Christmas cards from Coach Edwards and his wife.
Wow.
Still to this very day. And so for me, it's bigger than just a game. It was formative in my life.
And that's been a lot of the rhetoric from this coaching staff, which has been a return to more of kind of the Lavelle-ish ideas. I don't think the word Lavelle-ish has ever been used in a sentence, but there it is. What do you think of this new coaching staff led by Kalani Sitake and several of your old teammates?
I'm super excited. Coach Kalani and I have had an opportunity to talk, and his passion for BYU and my passion for BYU collided, and it was just like I thought the phone was going to just explode. And so I'm super, super excited, and I think the synergy of having those guys back is important. And what's important, too, is the Lavelle era could never, ever, ever be relived. However, what we lived as players for Coach Edwards can be translated into this present context. But at the end of the day, these coaches have got to put their own imprint on BYU football, the culture they want, the football philosophy they want, the unrelenting effort they want, and the execution. So they've got to put their own brand and stamp on it. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. And I'm excited to see guys that I played with that I remember as 19-year-old boys who are now 40-something-year-old men now getting to retell the story of BYU. It's exciting.
Follow him at Derwin L. Gray on Twitter, former BYU defensive back and the last defensive back drafted out of BYU in 1993 by the Indianapolis Colts. Let's talk about one of your former teammates, another NFL guy, the Heisman Trophy winner, TYDETMER. What do you expect from him as the offensive coordinator in year number one?
Yeah, that's awesome. Ty was actually over the house a little bit over a month ago. And, first of all, Ty's my friend. Ty's my dude. We went fishing together when we were in college. We're both from San Antonio. And this is what I know about Ty. Ty has a high football IQ. He has incomparable competitiveness. And if I was a high school quarterback, I would want to play for that guy. And the thing about Ty is he's always worn the underdog label. His arm was not strong enough. He was not tall enough. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that. And one of the moments I remember about Ty is that as a sophomore, he was voted the team captain even before he was voted starting quarterback. And I knew that with him at the helm, there was no game that we were out of. And I expect him to take that same mentality to the sideline and developing the offensive philosophy that he's going to develop. Yeah, there's going to be a learning curve, obviously. Going from high school to D1, learning curve. But if anybody can bridge that gap fast, it's going to be Ty Detmer.
He's coming up on the show in the next segment. So what do you really think about him doing?
You know, and the thing is I've competed against Ty in practice at BYU. I've competed against Ty when he played with Green Bay and I played with the Colts, and when he played with the Eagles and I played with the Colts, and I've competed with Ty in fishing. And the only thing I've ever beat him in is in fishing.
Should we give him a hard time about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now that's the dirt that we were looking for. Well done. Well done. Ty Detmer is now facing a situation that is very unique. He has a good problem. Two really good, accomplished quarterbacks. Tanner Mangum, the incumbent starter because of what he did last year, and Taysom Hill coming off a pretty significant injury, but it's Taysom Hill, a guy that was in the Heisman conversation for a couple of years. What do you think Ty Detmer will and should do with the use of those two quarterbacks?
Well, I think the first thing is that we have to understand that they are both great quarterbacks, but they are different. Taysom Hill in a zone read offense, if he's quarterback, 50% of the running is going to come from him. If Tanner's the quarterback, he's a pro style. 90% of the running will come from Jamal Williams. And so Ty, depending upon if Taysom is healthy, that's going to be that will determine the offense that he will run, because you can't run the same offense with those guys, okay? So I view it like Joe Montana and Steve Young. That Joe Montana is Tanner and Steve Young is Taysom. And so a zone read offense with Taysom in college is lethal. But probably the better pro prospect is Tanner because of his quick release and his arm, but I would not doubt Taysom being able to make the leap. However, in all of this, the Liz Frank injury, is significant. And let's don't minimize this. Taysom is the kind of young man that doesn't have to play in the games to have influence on the team because of the leader he is.
That's a significant thing, and that's something we discuss as well. Is I don't see this dividing the team in any way, because I think that you have two capable leaders, two guys that have gone on missions, are mature, can help this team in any way. I want to talk about another quarterback. On signing day, you introduced JAREN Hall, son of your former teammate Kalen Hall, and you called him Russell Wilson, but faster. What has Kalen told you about his son JAREN?
Well, first of all, Kalen is my buddy, and, dads have a very high opinion of their sons, just like I have one of mine. So what I did is I went to huddle and I watched JAREN play. So, and this is not a slight to his teammates that he played with in high school, but he has major league arm talent equivalent to what Tanner has. If JAREN was 6'3" or 6'4", he would be a 5-star, without a question. His arm talent is sensational, but he also has 4.5 speed. And so when I compared him to Russell Wilson, it was because of the height. Now, JAREN is probably, and I know Russell, JAREN is probably an inch to an inch and a half taller than Russell. And I just think that JAREN could really, really be a special player at BYU, particularly in a zone read type of offense. But he has the skill set to be a drop back passer. And so the receivers he had in high school are not at the skill level that he'll have in college, and I think that'll make him that much better. But then when you got a kid that's 6 foot, 6'1", and when he gets back from his mission, he may be 215 pounds. And so you got a guy like that with a great arm and who can run and who has a high football IQ. And the thing that I learned about Jaren in talking to him is he has what I call icy still confidence. He's not going to boast about it, but you look in his eyes, you look at how he plays, and he goes, man, this is a mature, confident young man. So I'm expecting big things out of him.
Derwin Gray on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline right now. Dewey, when you look at the motivational speeches that you have given over your life, and the one that you gave to BYU football in 2015 was certainly notable. We heard just an excerpt of that. What would the motivational speech be to this team now, 198 days away from game number 1 with a new staff and everything that's happening?
Yeah, you know, the first thing is, let me say this about the speech last year. One of the reasons why it was so passionate, if I start crying, just forgive me, but my son was there with me. And if it wasn't for BYU and me meeting my wife there, he wouldn't have existed. And so even as people listen, man, it is so much bigger than scoring touchdowns and getting interceptions. My son was with me talking to a team that I left a sentence in the story of BYU. So that's a lot of the passion. Secondly, what I would say to this team is I would say, listen, you define who you're going to be. They're going to play some great teams. They're going to have a very, very difficult schedule. So they must be meticulous in their preparation, unrelenting in their effort, and they must have trust that they have each other's backs. And if they do those three things, they can have a very successful season. Anywhere from 9 to 10 wins. I believe that.
Wow. Okay. There you go. Derwin Gray bringing it on BYU Sports Nation. We appreciate the time. We got to get you into Studio B very, very soon.
I would love to do that. Hopefully I'll get another trip up there and bring my son as well.
Dewey, we appreciate the time. We wish you the best. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.